What if you could design a building and know for certain it would come in on time and at the lowest possible cost, all without compromising the design dynamics that the architects envisioned? You could if your construction company was qualified to advise you on what's called constructability before a single nail, board, or brick was set in place. That capability describes our next guest to a T, next on Prime. Welcome back to Prime. I'm Bill Pemberton. You know, regardless of what most people think, all construction companies are not created equal, especially when it comes to something called constructability. Well, here today to explain to us what constructability is and why it should matter is Darrell Smith, Vice President at Jamail & Smith Construction Company in Houston, Texas. Welcome, Darrell.
Thank you, Bill. Glad to be here.
Glad you could be with us. Well, Darrell, I'm curious to find out more about constructability and so forth, but let's start with just talking about your company and how it got started and give us a little bit of a background.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Jamail Smith began about 30 years ago. Jim Jamail started the company. Greg Smith joined shortly after him. We are a statewide general contractor based, have offices in Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas.
Outstanding. Well, you know, you've got an outstanding resume. Let's talk a little bit about some of the projects that you folks have been doing.
Well, we've got some slides here, I think, that will show some of the projects that we have been involved with, predominantly from a cost control standpoint. Many of these projects were designed and had budget challenges, and we were able to go in and work with the architect and the owner and bring them back into budget and make successful projects out of them.
Very interesting, and we'll talk in detail about some more of your projects as we go along. But let's go ahead and dive into the meat a little bit here, Darrell. Tell me a little bit about what defines Jamail & Smith Construction that sets you apart from a lot of other construction companies.
We are a little bit unique in that we're also a licensed engineering firm, and we're also a licensed electrical contractor. While we don't use those skills in a competitive environment for design or for electrical work, those talents on our staff help us be perfectly suited for design build or assisting with design evaluation and constructability control.
Interesting. So you guys get up on the front end of the process. You sit down with the architects and you really help them sort of noodle through how this whole thing should work. Am I on target here?
That's it. We like to get involved from the very beginning at the concept phase all the way through schematics and design development phase, predominantly in a budget control standpoint to make sure that the project is meeting the budget parameters and that the construction methods that are selected through the architects, fit the goals of the client.
Right. And I'd really like to take a little time and really examine this idea of constructability. Let's go ahead. I need to probably ask the question, architects aren't famous for being open to other people's ideas. They're pretty strong about their designs and so forth. Yet you're able to sit down with the architects and you're able to talk with them and be a part of that creative process. How do you gain their trust and openness in that dialogue?
Well, that's a good point, and we have a great example of a project where we were on board early on during the schematic phase, and the owner and the architect spent some time working on what they really wanted the building to look like. When we stepped in, it was over budget, predominantly because the building was too large. We were able to work with the architect and owner and reduce the building, not change the functionality of the building or not change the quality of the building, but get the project back on focus and on budget early in the schematic design process so they could move forward with confidence that would be built in the budget that the owner had set aside.
Very, very interesting. So tell me a little bit more about we were talking earlier, and you were talking to me about risk sharing. And if I'm an architect and you come into my office and you sit down and you want to talk to me about design build, and what is the pitch there? Why do I want to do that?
Well, usually, we've recently done two projects, for instance, that the developer had a very fixed budget in large buildings. One was 7 and the other one's about $9 million. And they just could not afford to go over those budgets. We were able to actually step in and take the responsibility of budget management off of the architect's shoulders, which they're typically glad to give up that responsibility and liability. And we were also able to ensure to the client that there would be no cost overruns on the project if we could get in early enough to ensure that the decisions that were made during the design process were going to be inside the budget. And often they weren't, but we were able to then go in and make suggestions using our database of hard cost and current costing to say, maybe you should try some different options to get the same result and bring the project back on budget. One project was completed just as we had intended, on budget, with a very happy client, and we're halfway through the other project right now.
Well, that is an attractive proposition. So let me see if I understand constructability. The architect wins because his ideas get to keep looking good, or hers. They don't have to compromise a lot on the design dynamics that they put into the project. The owners and operators get a little bit of an extra sense of confidence because somebody's already vetted cost control,
right,
and already kind of looked through those things. So it really reduces the stress factor and the risk factor up and down the line for everybody involved.
Very much so. In today's energy codes and international building codes, our buildings today are much more complicated, and there's hundreds and thousands of decisions that are made during that process of design. Each one of those decisions has a cost associated with it. Our job is to establish that cost and bring that feedback back to the design team and the owner for decisions.
So do you ever find yourself in a situation where you are advising on constructability and there's another construction firm involved? Or is it always you're the constructability advisor and construction company?
We've done both. We've actually gone into situations where the owner was entertaining two contractors and or more, and asked for feedback on the design and budget. And we've got a good track record of using our skills and talents to win those clients towards Jamail Smith.
Well, I think I've become a believer in constructability. It looks like nobody loses. It's a win-win-win up and down the line. Well, you know, you're vice president of the healthcare division, and you told me a little bit prior to our interview that you guys are making and have actually been involved in senior living design for a while, but now it's a big new emphasis. What's behind that emphasis, Darrell?
Well, the obvious answer is the baby boom generation is driving the need for more projects in the marketplace. But the best answer is that we're really good at it. I have been involved in, we've been involved in senior living for 20 years plus.
Right.
All of our staff is very versed in not only the construction of the projects, but what it takes to get state licensure. And as well as, we've built over 100 senior living projects. About 50 of those are freestanding buildings. So we've got a good history of bringing that product to market.
That's a lot. So what are some of the particulars when you get into senior living building? I think a lot of people are thinking we'd like to get in that. That sounds like a growth market. But why would an owner be concerned about having somebody in there that really got it versus somebody that just wants to take advantage of a growing market? Is there specialized skill sets and knowledge base there?
Yeah, it's definitely an operations-driven market. I mean, these are facilities that the operational intensity to maintain, your client 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. You've got to have a great operation team to make these successful. And each operation team really has sort of a unique fit often to the different building type, the size of building, and the functionality. Everything from skilled nursing facilities, assisted living, memory care, all require a specialized team to manage, as well as a specialized building to house those residents in. Like us, there's architectural firms that specialize in this industry and contractors, again, that know what it takes to build a building so that at the end of the project, the licensure by the state goes smoothly and easily.
Well, that's excellent. Can you tell us a little bit about how the overall industry is changing? We know it's growing, senior living. You were sharing an interesting evolution earlier about how it began and kind of where it's going. Yeah. Can you expand on that for us a little bit?
Yeah, in my day, skilled nursing facilities was pretty much the only senior housing back when I was a kid. And they were all institutional models. They were more like a small hospital type environment, not very home friendly. In the 90s, the assisted living boom really proved to us that a residential model could successfully manage seniors and house seniors. And so what you're seeing now is a renovation of existing skilled nursing facilities, or a whole new model of skilled nursing facility come out with higher end finishes, with larger square footage per resident. All of that is driving the cost of that development up. All the more reason to get a constructability expert and a budget control process in place early in your project to make sure that you're down the path. You'll be able to build a building for the budget you had.
It sounds like you guys have got the right type of expertise and you're in the right market at the right time. If somebody out there was interested and wanted to find out more about your companies, you're located where throughout Texas?
We have Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin offices. Our senior care division is focused out of Austin, but we leverage the other regions to support the construction in those particular regions as well.
Good.
And we work throughout the state of Texas.
Would you take a project outside of Texas?
We are working with 2 clients right now that are asking us to do that. My background and most of the team that I brought on board with Jamail Smith is national construction. So if the market was right and the client's situation was right, we most definitely would consider it.
So, and I think you shared with me you had some interesting retail background. Is this, as more and more we see that there is a consumer-driven senior market, this is not quite the Starbucks generation, but the ones preceding it. Do you feel like your experience and your background in hospitality and pleasing the customer is an added bonus for you?
No, I think so. We really value the relationship that we build with our clients, and most of our work is really repeat business. When we establish a client relationship, we typically do more than one project for them, and we go in with the mindset to please them for that reason. And it's been a proven model for about 30 years now.
Well, it sounds like an excellent model. Maybe right before we go here, any projects going on right now you want to mention to us?
Yeah,
about 30 seconds.
We have an independent living project up in Forney, Texas, that is about 3 months ahead of schedule right now. That'll open up in September, October this year. We're in the design of a facility in South Texas, which will be a wonderful skilled nursing facility.
That sounds excellent. Unfortunately, we're out of time here. But I would like to have you back on the show. Would you come back sometime?
Love to do that. Yes,
talk to us more about this because it's something everybody needs to know more about. Thank you for being on the show. We're going to tell folks how to get in touch with your company for those who are interested. But Darrell, it's been a real pleasure. It's been a fast interview, but we'll have you back on in a very good one.
Look forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Well, if you'd like to know more about Jamail & Smith and you'd like to know how to get in touch with them, please go to jamailsmith.com. That's JAMAILSMITH.com. And that's all the time we have for today. Remember, you can keep up with Prime online at onprimetv.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks for watching. I'm Bill Pemberton. See you next time.